You've read about it in the papers. You've seen it in the news. Teens taking their lives because they're victims of bullying. Teen bullying has spread across the United States so rapidly that people often refer to it as an epidemic. The number of cases over the past couple of years have been astonishing. So what can we do to put an end to this infectious epidemic? What can we do to protect our children from these monsters now and come September in the new school year? Joining me today is a very lovely young lady who at the age of 16 has overcome bullying herself. She's pulled through and she's proven to be a true icon for hope and justice. Please welcome 16-year-old Jamie Isaacs to the show. Thank you, Jamie, so much for being here today. Let me just tell you that it's so great to have you here today because this is such an important topic. You lived through 6 years of it yourself. Your brother lived through it. And not so much myself growing up, but I was definitely sort of picked on. So I can feel from where you're coming from. So I thank you for being here today and discussing this topic. Now let's talk about how bullying started for you almost 10 years ago now. It actually started with one of your supposed best friends.
Yeah.
What happened?
It did. It was at the end of second grade, right after my 8th birthday. And the girl was my best friend. And she was always at my house and always hanging out with me. And all of a sudden, she just started, I don't even know how to describe it. She just became very envious and jealous of my life. She was upset that my parents weren't like in and out of jail and they weren't drinking and drugging, that they were just always there for me. Yeah. And she was just jealous of the clothes I wore, and it became this whole thing where she was saying that she was going to live in our house after we died. Huh? It was really strange to hear out of a 7-year-old's mouth.
Absolutely.
So it then escalated to her tripping me when I got on the bus and stabbing me with sharpened pencils and just really ridiculous things. And as the years went on, she just recruited more and more kids to join in with it.
So by the time, and I understand that you actually had to be taken out of that specific school district and placed into another school. So I can almost imagine the pain that caused you and the inconveniences. So by the time you actually left that school, how many kids were against you?
When I left the elementary school, there were 7. And when I left the middle school, there were 22.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. And these are how old? Early teens, at least.
Yeah, 7th grade, 12, 13.
Unbelievable. I mean, this is actually the first time that I'm actually really hearing your story. I did read your book, which we'll talk about in a little while. Jamie did have her story published. It's entitled In Jamie's Words, and we are going to get to that a little bit later. But it's so unbelievable. Now, what exactly were these other kids doing to you when you were in school?
At first, it started off where the girl who started it was basically just threatening my friends, saying that if they were friends with me, that they were going to get bullied too. So these girls didn't want to be friends with me because their parents didn't want them getting involved with it, and they just made up their mind that they'd rather be friends with the bully than be friends with me.
Unbelievable.
So that's kind of just how it started, where they just would ignore me. But then, like, once they started growing up a little bit, like at 4th and 5th grade, and they started making screen names through AOL, that's when the cyberbullying and death threats started. And that was end of 4th grade and then 5th grade.
Oh my goodness, death threats at that age. I can't believe it, honestly. It's just so. Now, these people that were picking on you, these young kids, I mean, obviously they didn't come from a home like you did. I've met your mom and most of your family. You come from a very loving home. Do you think that maybe that's what they were bullying you about, that that's what they were jealous about, maybe?
I think that's really what they were jealous about, like 100%. A lot of these girls, they came from houses of drug addicts. Their parents were in and out of prison. Their houses were frequent stops for domestic violence, all kinds of crazy things. And my house was never like that. I get along really well with my entire family. I'm very, very close with my parents, unlike most teens. So
this is true.
It's pretty much a problem for them. So.
Unbelievable.
But it was unfortunate.
But it was because of your strong family bond that all of you share that you were able to pull through this. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. I had a very, very strong base at home. And without my parents' assistance and just without them, caring about me, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Because if they were consumed with their own issues and just saying, oh, you'll get over it, they're just kids bothering you, you'll live, be strong, then I would not be here today.
Yeah, I think in my mind, like, if you weren't here to share your story, I mean, did you ever think that you would become one of those sad statistics of those other kids that don't feel like that they have the strength to pull through, that don't have the support system at home like you do? Did that ever cross your mind that maybe you would end up like them one day when all this was going on?
I didn't really think so. Back then, you didn't really have the thought of suicide, like, being thrown around. Like, kids didn't really know what suicide was. It really wasn't something anyone ever talked about. So I didn't think about that at all. I never thought about hurting myself. I never thought about, like, running away or, ending my life. I was always like a happy camper. I always liked going to school. I liked seeing friends. I liked learning and everything like that.
Yeah.
So having to be traumatized to, like, be in school was horrible for me because I actually liked it. Also, unlike most teens today. So, it was an uncomfortable feeling. But
sure.
I didn't want to end my life. I always thought that I had something to live for.
Good for you. And that's obviously your message to everyone out there who feels that they can't pull through, that they do need to take their own life. There's no escape. And that's what you mentioned in your book, too. Like I said, we will get to that. I'm so excited to talk about that, actually, because I did read it, and it moved me. And there were chapters that actually brought tears to my eyes because, not that I was bullied growing up myself, but definitely being homosexual, I was called derogatory names. I was picked on, and that hurt me. And whether you're bullied or you're just picked on, no matter what the situation is, it all still hurts the same. So in reading your book, you mentioned in a few chapters, the beginning chapters, that each year something progressed. What do you specifically remember each year happening to you as this was going on throughout the years?
Well, for second grade, it was, basically just, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 girls, and all of them had been my friend, and they were just being ridiculous with the whole bus thing, and eventually the principal pulled me off the bus, which was bad because there was no reason for the victim to be taken off.
Right.
Really, the bully needed to. So I didn't get to ride the bus like a normal little kid.
It's interesting that you say that, actually, because I've talked to several young people like yourself who also say that they were bullied and also say they're picked on in school, and whenever they do fight back, they're the ones to get in trouble. And I have to say that really it burns me personally because I was one of those people growing up. I was trying to fight back for myself, and I was the one that ended up in the principal's office. So it's just so extremely unfair. But did these kids ever give you a specific reason why they were picking on you, why they were bullying you, stabbing you with pencils, tripping you on the bus?
They never really did. Like, for example, 4th grade, just at lunch, I hated going to lunch because I always had to rush to get out to try and get away from the girls that were bothering me, which caused me to get reflux disease. So
oh my goodness, at such a young age.
Yeah, so I have to take medication for that every morning. But one of the girls came up to me and she started like making fun of me for being well-spoken at 4th grade, and it just didn't make sense. Like, for a 4th grader to tell another 4th grader that basically they have a problem with you because you can speak well and keep yourself together. Like, it was just one of the dumb things that bothered people.
Yeah.
These girls were going around to other girls saying, if you don't punch Jamie, I'm going to punch you. Like, that was like the main course of 3rd and 4th grade.
Oh my gosh.
5th grade, the teacher actually chimed in and started, like, calling me all kinds of horrible names because of the things I liked. The teacher did. Started making fun of me because I went to therapy. And then all the classmates would chime in because they saw that it was okay because the teacher was saying it. School didn't want to do anything. No matter how many times my parents went up to the school and tried to talk to the teacher, to the principal, the assistant principal, the superintendent, they didn't want to hear it. They just said it's kids being kids, and just let it go.
It really upsets me because this isn't kids being kids. There aren't very many people at that age that are doing death threats and saying to you that they're going to kill you and live in your house. I mean, who does that at such a young age? And for them to not do anything about it, I mean, I really feel like if you didn't leave this school, something worse really would have happened to you at this point, just from not only reading your book, but talking to you here. And it's just absolutely amazing. So what was the reaction to you and your family when the administration did nothing to help you?
It took a huge toll on my family. My parents had to get rid of our business that we had in Oyster Bay because my mom was constantly having to close the deli that we owned and having to come all the way out to get me, and then she'd have to drive all the way back to make sure everything was finished up, and too much back and forth. And it was a lot of stress on my dad. My dad developed Bell's palsy, which is partial facial paralysis.
Ugh.
And he had that for a while because of all the stress. So it really had a huge effect on us, because bullying doesn't just have an effect on a single person that it's happening to. It has an effect on everybody around you, your friends, your family, everybody. My brother really felt it. He didn't understand what was going on. My sister was extremely little, so she was kind of born into this stressful environment. She didn't really understand why I was so upset.
Right.
So it was really stressful for all of us, and my parents really tried very hard to try and keep us all together as the family unit that we were before it all happened. And
what an incredible support system. I mean, to go, I mean, total of almost 10 years between yourself, 6 years, and then your brother was also bullied in the same school.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what was it like for you to wake up in the morning and have to go to this place every day? What was the first thing that popped into your mind?
I actually don't really remember too much of that. I just know that in the morning I just kind of wanted to continue sleeping and just wake up late and not have to worry about these kids bothering me. I would hope that I would go into school and nothing bad would happen to me again. I always had this kind of positive outlook a little bit. Some days I just felt really, really horrible, and I didn't want to go to school. And I would actually make myself sick without actually wanting to. I would wake up sick and I'd end up throwing up from stress, and my mom would have to call the school and say, Jamie's not coming into school today because she feels so sick over everything you're allowing to happen.
Unbelievable.
And the school just was okay with it, that
and
I was missing so much school.
They didn't care, they didn't have any sympathetics towards you. Oh my goodness.
Not at all.
Unbelievable. Now, was there a specific time of day that the bullying would start? Maybe when you first stepped on the bus? I mean, how consistent were these kids?
When I was on the bus, it would always happen when I got on the bus. I'd get on, I'd sit down, and it would start. When I got pulled off the bus, it would happen when I got into school, when like all the kids would get off the bus and they'd line up in the hallways, and then we'd get sent to our classrooms. It'd start then. And if it didn't start then, it would start as soon as I got into the classroom. So it started very, very early in the morning and continued straight until I got picked up in the afternoon.
I mean, right in the middle of class, I mean, you're trying to learn, and you're getting something thrown at you, or somebody's calling you a name or something. I mean, so you can't even, your schoolwork did suffer because of it.
It did. I always have tried extremely hard to keep my grades up, but a lot of like certain subjects really got affected. My spelling was really bad. Math was absolutely horrendous. And
mine always was too.
Yeah, it still is. Still not good in math. But you know, it's just I wasn't in a very good learning environment. It was just extremely hard for me to focus, especially like in 5th grade, where the teacher wouldn't even call me by my real name. He'd call me by something else.
Oh my goodness. Is it something that you could say over air, or?
Yeah. For example, because I was in therapy, he thought it'd be okay to call me Dr. Phil. So instead of saying, Jamie, would you like to answer this question, he'd say, Dr. Phil, answer that.
That is so unbelievable to me, that a member of the administrative staff, a teacher, that it's mind-blowing. It really is.
Yeah. And, you know, at first I was like, okay, you know, I don't know why they're calling me this. And then when I found out it was because I was in therapy, I thought it was just derogatory, because there's nothing wrong with seeking help. And, you know, that's what I really like to tell kids, like now after the fact, that it's okay to get help, whether it's from a friend, a family member, someone in school, or a therapist, because you do need someone to talk to.
Absolutely.
And these people just found something wrong with me going to therapy. Like I actually had some kind of a crazy mental disorder.
Unreal. And meanwhile, the crazy mental disorder was really them and the students that just continued this every single day. I mean, you're such a beautiful young lady. I mean, what did this do to your self-esteem?
My self-esteem was kind of in the toilet. My views on myself were really, I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't really know how I felt about myself anymore. But my parents really tried very, very hard to keep me from being negative. They always tried to keep my self-esteem pretty high. They put me in acting lessons and singing lessons and horseback riding.
So that was able to bring you some joy out of this entire nightmare.
I always knew that, like, when I would get out of school, oh, I have acting class today, I'm going to see my other friends. And I know that I would be so far out of the whole area that I was in with school. and I wouldn't have to worry about those kids. I'd have other friends from another district.
That's good. So at least you had an outlet for yourself. I mean, did you ever feel like this was going to end? I mean, how do I want to put it? Did you ever think there was going to be an escape, that this would finally come to a close, or you were just feeling kind of hopeless at the moment?
I wouldn't say I was hopeless, and I wouldn't say I knew that there was going to be an end for it. I guess I was somewhere in the middle. I knew that the school wasn't going to do anything for me, and I knew that
That's really such
there
a
was
shame.
some hope.
I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but the fact that you go to the teacher, the principal, the superintendent, and not one of these people are siding with you, and I even read that in your story. That's one of the things that actually brought tears to my eyes, because it's like, who do you go to when you're in school? I mean, administrative staff, let's admit, that's like the police department for kids, and if you can't go to them, who can you go to for help? So you actually had to leave this school and go to a new school.
Yeah, it was hard. Because I did have a few friends, like very, very little. And I knew that in 7th grade that there was no way that I could have possibly moved on to 8th grade there and graduated. I didn't want to. I had no desire to. And my parents really wanted to pull me out in the middle of 7th grade. And I actually said, no, don't do that. Because 1, you're showing them that they won.
That they won, exactly.
2, midterms are coming up, and I don't really want to miss that. I'm already studying for it, so don't pull me out now. Let me just finish the year. So I did. I wound up having to sit one day in school suspension for lying, but I was okay with finishing the school year, and it really saved me, though. If I would have stayed there, I probably would be dead, which is unfortunate to think about.
It is. It really is. Especially at your age. I mean, as a beautiful young lady, it's just so mind-blowing. Like I said, if these kids are out there watching right now, what is it you want to say to them? What is it you want them to know that they did to you?
The bullies? I don't really actually have too much to say, really. I've kind of completely moved past it. But really, with the place that I'm at now, I guess I could just thank them, because if that never would have happened to me, I wouldn't be where I am now, I wouldn't be who I am now, and the kids who I've saved wouldn't be here. And
so they've made you a stronger person all around. I mean, it's just a shame that that's the way you have to learn how to be strong. I mean, life does throw curveballs, let's not deny that, but I mean, to go through this so young, I mean, you were, what, 7 or 8 years old when all this really started? It's absolutely mind-blowing. Well, I would like to get to your book right now entitled In Jamie's Words. And this is actually your story. This is like your biography of what you've gone through as a victim and how others can benefit from your story and also seek help. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my book is basically 2 things. It's a journey through my life, and it's also a guide. So if you're a parent and you're concerned about if your child's being bullied, or if you do know that your child's being bullied, I have a whole chapter dedicated to different tactics that help save me. And you also get to grow up with me, and you get to see the tension that went on in my family and just in my everyday life, pretty much, because the bullying never took a vacation. So I think it's really helpful for even like school administrators who want to kind of see the negligence of another school and see what they can do to help fix their programs on bullying, and to just see what they can do to help with the cause. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, saying that schools have enforced some of the things that I've talked about, and it's been successful.
Good for you, Jamie. And I actually read it in one complete weekend, actually. I mean, it was a real page turner, and I honestly couldn't put it down, and that's only because I couldn't believe in my own mind what you were going through, and I'd never read anything else like it. And this actually started, you were keeping a journal of everything that happened to you when the bullying started, so this is where this originates from. Now, what, not so much influenced you, but what made you do that? Like, how did you know to keep a journal and make it serve a purpose? Well, if you can even answer that. I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting to me that you kept the journal and then you turned it into a book that benefits so many people.
Well, my therapist always said that a good way to kind of almost cleanse myself of all the anger I had would be to journal. Because sometimes you feel so angry or so upset and you don't really know how to word what you want to say. But when you write, somehow it just all comes together and you can just find the words to describe how you're feeling. So they would say to me, write down how you feel, write down everything bad that happened, and then write about the good things that happened so that you can look at the negatives and then you can look at the positives of your day and realize that you did have something you liked about the day. And I would sit at home after I did my homework. If I had time, I would just jot down a couple things that happened. I would write down about all the girls who got involved in the bullying that day. I would write about what the teachers said, and then I'd write about whatever good came out of it. And
which is probably very, very little back then.
Very little. And it just turned into a massive journal. And one day my mom was reading through it because we made a timeline out of all of it. And my mom said, wow, this would make a really good book. You know, who else has this actually happened to?
Right.
And just as the years went on, after I got pulled out of my old school and then everything started happening to my brother, we started piecing it together in book form. And now it's a book.
And now here it is. Actually, I'm just going to stand it up here. Maybe our center camera can just get a little focused on it so that people can check it out. And I'd like to talk a little bit now about your foundation, the Jamie Isaacs Foundation, which we have a clip, a graphic for that we can put up for people if they'd like more information. What exactly is the Jamie Isaacs Foundation?
Well, my foundation is for any victims of bullying, pretty much across the country. And if they're being bullied or they just need advice on what to do, if they think they're going to be bullied, to prepare them, they can call my hotline. It's 24 hours. So usually my mom will pick up the phone because I have school. So she'll always be there for you. Sometimes I'm there.
But that's so great, though, the way you can just reach out to people that way. And you probably get so many calls. I mean, can you tell us just the most common calls that you get?
Well, the phone never stops ringing. My mom can vouch for that. A lot of it's just common things like, oh, my daughter or my son is being bullied, and this happened and that happened. What do I do? You know, a lot of people know that they have rights, but they don't know what rights they have, if that makes sense.
Right. It's true. I understand what you're saying.
Like they don't know what the school is violating. They don't know what they can do to rectify the situation. And my mom had spent practically a whole entire year in the public library researching all the New York State laws. So now she knows everything that schools violate, and she can instantly help a person in just a couple minutes, telling them who to go to, what law to talk about, and all these things.
Wow, so such a great foundation that just benefits so many people. I mean, what you're doing is just such a great thing, and I just want to commend you for that, because like I said earlier, there are so many people that don't know how to pull through this, that do take their lives. I mean, there was actually just 2 recent stories. Another child had taken his own life for being bullied, and one was just awarded a settlement of a huge amount, which caused him to be paraplegic the rest of his life. So it's still spreading, it's still going out there, and we need to stop it. So definitely Jamie's book can help you do that, her foundation can help you do that. Now I'd like to talk to you because these are some really great accomplishments here. You've been featured in Newsday, News 12, Channel 11. I mean, what was that like for you to be in the spotlight like this for something so bad, but something so good came out of it?
Well, at first really was very hectic for me. When I was passing the Suffolk County cyberbullying and cyberstalking law in June of 2010.
That's so impressive. I mean, you work with these New York State legislators to help pass these anti-bullying laws, everybody. Jamie did this.
It was a really good experience, and the morning I was going to speak about it, a whole bunch of news trucks just pulled up outside of my house. And I'm like still in my pajamas. My dad just wakes up. He's like, "Where's Jamie?" And my mom's like, "Oh, she's on the side of the house doing an interview." And it was a little overwhelming. And I'm like, "Okay, this is kind of cool." And these people really like to get in your face and ask you all these questions. And they're like, "Jamie, over here, Jamie, over here." Yeah, kind of, pretty much exactly like that. And they're like, "Oh, over here, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you that question." And the first 2 or 3. You're like, okay, this is really cool, you know, I have to try and figure out how to word things properly.
Yeah.
But then, after that, everything's really redundant. They ask you the same questions all the time, and you're like, I just answered this.
So you're pretty much programmed at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, I just answered this, why do I have to answer it again? But it was really exciting. I mean, after that, it was just kind of like, oh, whatever, another interview. okay.
It's become a way of life now.
Pretty much. And then like People magazine, that was really big for me because I don't really read teen magazines. I read People magazine, I read Us and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, really? That's so cool. And when I went, I got to meet like all the photographers, and I actually met 2 actors from the movie 2012 who were also bullied.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really great experience, and there was a whole photo shoot.
Something so great came out of this.
Yeah, and I was like,
it's
yes,
just such a shame that of what you had to go through to get to this point. But, like I said, you take the bad with the good, and you're doing so many amazing things out there. And you have more amazing things coming up. You're actually going to Albany next month to present some bills. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's actually really exciting. I went, when did I go? Last
You have so much happening.
I don't even remember. But I went a couple weeks ago. I actually got honored with what's called a resolution. It's kind of like a citation, only it gets put into the state history book. So any people who have received a resolution and any laws that have been tried to get passed will go into this big history book.
And you're one of them.
Yeah, so my name's in there. It's pretty cool.
You must be so excited.
It was very exciting, and the whole building is just so amazing. Like the architecture and everything, I was like so mind blown being in there and like on the Senate floor, seeing all of the senators, and it was really, really great. And I'm so excited to go and actually present the bill. I think that, well, I'm hoping rather that it would be, that it's going to have a really good outcome. I hope that it's going to hit kids and make them realize that they have to think before they click, that their words do mean something to people. It's just because you're hiding behind a computer and you're not saying it to their face does not mean that it's any less hurtful than you actually saying it to them.
Exactly. I totally agree with you 100%. So that's just such a great accomplishment in its own. I'm so excited for you. So you're not only presenting these bills and doing all the press releases, but you're also working on a music video that's targeted towards bully victims. Tell us about that. That must be really exciting too.
It's extremely exciting. Ever since I was really little, I've always been into like the whole singing thing, and then one of the things my parents did was put me into singing lessons. And so it's kind of just something I picked up, and for a while my mom and I were like, oh, we should write a song, because that, kids really listen to music and they listen to the lyrics and it empowers them. Like, I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I take all of her lyrics to heart, and I know that if I can do that and I write a song, then someone is going to do the same to me, like with what I say. So I was, like, at first the songwriting was a lot of anger, because I didn't really know how to portray in a song how I felt about everything that happened to me. But after sitting down with the producer, we realized that it should be something really inspirational and something very uplifting. So the song is called Guiding Light, and it's a very, very positive, upbeat song. Kind of makes you want to dance a little bit, which is what I was aiming for. And it's just basically about, saying that there is a brighter side to everything, that even though there's a lot of sorrow and pain that's going on right now, it doesn't seem like you can go on any longer. There is a guiding light in your life, and there is a way out, and it's not suicide. That you can make your life better, and things will get better in the end. Good.
Good for you, Jamie. I'm so excited for you for everything, and I thank you for being here today. We're just about out of time, so we need to wrap it up. But again, I mean, you're just such an inspiration to so many young people out there who are struggling with this, and I really think that we helped several people out there today by you sharing your story. And of course, we have her information for the Jamie Isaacs Foundation, so if you do have any kind of problems with bullying, or you feel like there's nowhere to turn, please go to her website and be sure to check out her new book as well, In Jamie's Words. Jamie, thank you so much once again for being here today. And to you at home, I thank you for watching. And if you're in school, if you see something, say something. Tell a teacher, administrator, that there's somebody being bullied. You could be saving a life. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Yay for Jamie. Oh, okay.